So within the app, just the Garmin Connect app on your phone, you can get a couple of important metrics in regards to your heart rate. So you're just going into health stats, heart rate, and then you can see your resting heart rate. So that is for generally watches which have a optical heart rate on them. So this isn't necessarily you don't have to be wearing it overnight, but if you wear it day to day, then it'll get your active resting heart rate. So kind of just your average the lowest kind of average heart rate that you have. And you can see it kind of tracked here, the blue line. And I'm not actually sure what high is, because it's not actually your max heart rate. I think it's kind of your average exercising heart rate. But the other thing you can do is you can check out days or weeks or year. So you can get the trend across 4 weeks or 7 days. So if in the last 7 days you've barely worn your watch or you haven't really exercised, then it might be better to select 4 weeks. And so just unmute yourself and throw out a comment if I'm going through things a bit fast. But so you get into heart rate, and you can have a look at 7 days or 4 weeks, and you can see your resting heart rate. So that's going to be an important metric, finding your resting heart rate. The next one is your max heart rate. So you can see here I've got an arrow pointing towards mine, 190. So what you're going to do is it's merely just scrolling down from this screen, and you probably want to go to 4 weeks, and you want to think back to when you last did a really hard effort. So probably a race, a short race like a 10K, a 5K, big hill effort, interval training session, something where you went really, really hard. So you probably did something in the last 4 weeks. If you haven't, you might want to select 1 year, and then you have to select a month, and the activities will pop up in that. But if you scroll down and then find that workout that you probably know in your head, and that gives you an indication of what your max heart rate was for that day. And if you don't know your max, you might know off the top of your head what your maximum heart rate is. But generally I'd use a 4-week maximum, just because things like fatigue and stress and detraining can alter your maximum heart rate. So here I know it's 190 from a few weeks ago. Then once we've got our resting heart rate and our max heart rate, we can set our heart rate zones. So it's in the same menu on your app. You go down to Garmin devices, and you just select your device. Okay, so Garmin devices, select your device, and then it's under user settings. Okay, so once you've selected your device, you'll get this screen, and it'll have user settings. Now, another couple important things here when setting your zones. There's the default, there's running, there's cycling, and there's swimming, and they're all a little bit different. So the percentage calculations that they use can be slightly different. So what we want to do is, probably for everyone on here, is select running, right? So once you've got running, you can then select based on, okay? And generally the default is based on maximum heart rate. And this is where things are often completely wrong, because it's going to go based on maximum percentage of maximum heart rate. And the maximum heart rate is probably going to be age predicted, some outdated formula like 220 minus your age. And then this really doesn't work for kind of well-trained athletes over the age of 40, because then you start to get if you're 50 years old, you get a maximum heart rate of 170. That just, for a trained individual, that's far too low. Most will get above that. And so that then makes your zones percentage of 170, and it makes your zones really small. So what we want to do is go based on a percentage of heart rate reserve. What heart rate reserve does, basics, you take your resting heart rate away from your maximum heart rate. So my heart rate reserve would be 190 minus 44, which gives 46, 146. Then you can work out percentages of that. And where heart rate reserve is really good is that it doesn't really take into account your age. And that can be good for in a couple senses, but one, when again you're over 40 and you're a well-trained athlete, some of the age-based heart rate zones don't work as well. So, you know, in a lot of my other talks, I've referenced the 180 minus your age. As a default, that is the simplest and easiest way to calculate like aerobic zone 2 heart rate, because that's where we need to get. But once we kind of get more well trained and need to get a more accurate training zone, this heart rate reserve one is really good, because as you increase your fitness, you may alter your maximum heart rate, you may also alter your resting heart rate, and then that either increases or decreases your zone. So it's a bit more responsive to actual fitness level.